All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about a test that, a lot of guys only think about when they're trying to start a family. But it's so much more than that. We're talking about the semen analysis. And we're going to look at it for what it really is, your body's own secret report card. And that quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It's this vital window into your overall biology that, for the most part, gets completely ignored, until a problem becomes a real crisis. The goal today is to flip that script completely. Now, check this out, because this slide really busts a huge myth. For years and years, fertility was kind of framed as a woman's issue. But the data, it couldn't be clearer. The male factor is part of the equation in nearly half of all cases. It's a 50-50 street. And this test, well, it gives you the hard numbers for your side of that equation. Which leads us to the big question, right? If it's not just about, counting swimmers, what are you really learning from this thing? Let's break it all down. Okay, first things first, we have to get this idea out of our heads that this is some permanent grade. It's not. Think of it more like a snapshot, a single report card from one particular day that reflects your pretty recent history. And this just goes to show you how sensitive your system really is. See, it takes about 72 days to create new sperm from scratch. That means your health, your lifestyle choices, they have a direct line to your results. A bad fever, a super stressful month at work, even hanging out in a hot tub too often, all that stuff can show up on a test you take months later. It's always changing. It's not a static thing. So let's actually look at the report. I get it. At first glance, it can seem like it's written in a totally different language. But every single one of those metrics tells a really important part of the story. We're going to translate it for you, starting with the big three.
First up, the one everyone's heard of, sperm count. Now sure, it only takes one sperm to fertilize an egg, but the journey to get there is, believe me, incredibly tough. The best way to think about it is like a lottery. Having more tickets doesn't guarantee you'll win, but it sure does boost your odds.
But a huge count doesn't mean a thing if the sperm aren't going anywhere. And that's where motility comes in. It's the percentage of sperm that are actually swimming forward, making progress. I love this analogy. If the soldiers can't march, they can't reach their goal. Honestly, this is often one of the most important numbers on the whole page. Next up is morphology, and this is all about shape. Now, you should know, labs have incredibly strict rules for what they call a normal shape. Basically an oval head and one long tail. And there's a really good reason they're so picky. The shape is like a visual clue about the health of the genetic cargo it's carrying inside. An odd-shaped sperm is just more likely to be carrying damaged DNA. So beyond those big three, the report looks at a few other key things. The total volume of the sample, for example, that's important for transport. The pH level tells you about the chemical environment. If it's too acidic, it's basically a hostile environment for sperm. And finally, white blood cells. Seeing those is a big red flag that could signal an infection or some inflammation that needs to be checked out. And this is where it gets really interesting, especially with modern medicine. A special test called a vitality test can actually tell the difference between sperm that are alive but just not moving and sperm that are, well, not viable. That distinction is absolutely critical because a live sperm that isn't moving can often still be used successfully in procedures like IVF. So let's just do a quick recap. This table sums it up perfectly. Count is about your odds. Motility is about their ability to travel, and morphology is about the quality of the DNA inside. If you get those three, you've got a really powerful grasp on the whole report. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. We've talked a lot about making babies, but like we said right at the top, this test is valuable for reasons that go way beyond that. And this is a question a lot of guys have. If kids aren't on the radar right now, why even bother with this? Well, it turns out there are some pretty compelling reasons. Yeah, this list really lays it out. After a vasectomy, it's an absolute must-do to make sure the procedure worked. It can also be an early warning sign for other health issues like testicular cancer or hormonal problems. For anyone making big changes like quitting smoking or dropping a lot of weight, it gives you real biological proof that your hard work is paying off. And of course, it's absolutely essential before freezing sperm, say before starting chemotherapy. All right, so let's get practical for a second. For a lot of guys, just the idea of the test can be more stressful than the test itself. So let's just pull back the curtain and demystify the whole process. Getting an accurate result really comes down to a little bit of prep, and it's pretty simple. First, there's the abstinence window. Somewhere between 2 and 7 days is the sweet spot.
Too short, your count could be low. Too long, and their motility can drop. Second, stay away from things like alcohol for a couple of days beforehand. And finally, if you're sick with a fever, just reschedule. A high body temperature can totally wreck sperm quality, but only temporarily.
So, what about those at-home kits you see online? Well, they're convenient, sure, but for a real diagnostic test, collecting your sample at the clinic is still the gold standard. And it all comes down to timing. The sample starts to degrade almost immediately. And to get a truly accurate read on things like motility, the lab needs to look at it under a microscope within about 30 to 60 minutes.
So, finally, what happens after you get the report back? This can definitely be an anxious moment, but it's so important to go into it with the right frame of mind. And if you remember one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. One bad test is not a life sentence. It is not permanent. Your body regenerates sperm completely about every 72 days. A poor result is just data from a moment in time. It could be from that fever you had or that stressful period. It is not the final word. So, what's next? Well, the path forward usually falls into one of three buckets. It might start with lifestyle changes. Things like improving your diet, getting more exercise, quitting smoking can make a huge difference in just a few months. It might mean some medical treatment, like antibiotics if there's an infection. Or for more complex cases, it'll mean getting a referral to a specialist who can dig deeper. But here's the bottom line. Whether you're trying to start a family or just keeping tabs on your health, this test gives you something incredibly valuable: data. And when it comes to your health, having real, objective data is power. Knowledge really is your greatest advantage. And that's really what we want to leave you with. Your body is sending you signals all the time. This test is just one of those signals. It's a direct message about how things are running under the hood. The only real question is, are you listening?